Um, my current position is head of IT, but before I was responsible, amongst others, to do Agile in Storebrand with some other people. And I was also one of 5 learning Lean and doing Lean in Storebrand. So I run quite a lot of Lean projects. So that's some of my background, why I talk about this stuff. This way. Just a bit about Storebrand, but because I don't think you know it very much. It's a Norwegian company. It's a financial house, and its main business is pensions. As you see, we're quite old. And we're one of the founding companies in the Norwegian Stock Exchange. What's been quite important to Storebrand is technology. And we had a second computer in Norway. The defense had the first one. We had the second one. And we've always been a forerunner in technology where it's possible to do it. Traditionally, the business has been very product-oriented. Each product has its own process, its own systems, its own everything. And it's traditionally also been a lot of keying of information from one system into the other. Yeah? Sounds familiar? Business people, or our former CIO, solved this in a very clever way. He bought bigger screens, so we could get more applications up, so it was easier to key from one system to the other. We also have some old systems. I think the oldest code in production I've seen is written in 1968. And that's some of the problem with pensions. People live long. So you start saving, and you kind of get this product for a long time. So this is some of the backgrounds. We're a company of 2,200 people in total. We have an IT department of 300 developers. That's quite a big one. And we have a captive center in Vilnius, which currently is 30 IT people. We have 300 people here. And we also try now doing Agile cross-geographical. So I have a department that has people in Oslo, Stockholm, and Vilnius. And we try and do cross-border Agile. The challenge, what I'm going to talk to you about, is a problem we had where I and another guy was project managers for this project. And the problem was that the government in Norway decided that all companies in Norway needed a pension scheme for their employees. So all these guys needed to get a pension scheme of 2% of their salary. Yay. Only problem is that during 1 year, when we did the maths, we had to increase our number of customers by 270%. So what we have been using 200 years to build up, we had to triple in a year. Yeah, a bit of a challenge. So that's the challenge. And me and this guy was standing in the board, and he said, you need to succeed. We need a 30% market share of this market, or we're out of business. Some problem. So what we did was to do some business analysis here. And we had some problems with everything, really. The basic problem was that we could risk to have 10,000 asks for offers in a month. Guess how many offers we could maximally do? Less. 100 offers a month. was the absolute maximum we could do, and we risk getting 10,000. What do you do? So, and it's also, they did something other strange. They made the saving compulsory from here, from 1.7. And they added some disability at the end. Main problem is that our pricing is yearly. Yeah, so that was the first thing we sat down and thought about. And so if you start the saving here, how do we take money from here? Because we only take money yearly. And a bright idea say, why don't we give it away for free? First half year, we gave away for free. Did a huge marketing campaign, which I didn't like, because that means I would get that 10,000 people. Yeah? Coming in. So that's the challenge. And one of the first things we did, as I said, was to give away the first half year for free. Is it because we were kind? No, it was because the underlying estimation of the task of being able to solve that in our systems were 20,000 hours. Yeah, a huge cost. So here is the process. Yeah, the customer goes and talk to his sales client. They send it into back office. Back office keys it into 2 different systems. It's normal for one product. Yeah, there are 2 different systems, but that's what they do a lot of paper. And because it's from two systems, we have to collect them and write another paper. Then it goes to a manager for a signature. And then it goes all back. Simple, yeah? How can you use 3 months on this process? Yeah? And here's one of the problems. This is what the manager told us, how it worked. Of course, when you go and talk to the caseworkers, that's not how it works. Yeah, so one of the things when you start doing this is you have to go and talk to people actually doing the job. Yeah? So we first do a quota and then we do a contract. And it's exactly the same process, more or less. So altogether, it took 6 months to do this on average. And they had a dream process with automating everything. And the same for the other things. Good. Only problem is 60,000 hours to realize it. And I needed a solution tomorrow. Yeah? To handle this 10,000 coming in. So what do? The first thing, we go back to the process. If you see some process steps here, this is a bit more complicated than the manager's one, but still not very right. But when we did the first analysis, you have some underwriting here. That means that all people in the company needs a medical form. Filling in, do you smoke, do you do things like that? Why do we do that? To get healthy people in, because we're an insurance company. And we started thinking about this. We are selling pensions here. To be very blunt with you, we actually want people to die. We want them to not be healthy, because then we don't have to sell pay out the pensions. Yeah? So this step gone. Saved 4 or 5 weeks on the processing time. Getting all the forms back, you're doing everything. So even before we started, we saved quite a lot of time. Not very popular in my organization to be so blunt and tell it like this, yeah? But that's the case. And that's some of the kinds when you do Agile, and at least Lean. You need to look for waste, and waste are things that doesn't make sense. Yeah? Eliminate them. It's a lot of things going into a backlog that shouldn't have been there. You can solve them differently. The problem with IT is that whenever we get this problem, we can solve it with IT. Not necessary all the time. And now I went the wrong way. So lean in first. We did a lean project. Lean is actually, in my view, agile for business. Yeah, and it's a lot of similarities. I talked to one of the Olympic champions in high diving, what do you call it? Yeah, athletics. And he said, yeah, you need to have the goal in front, that you want to be an Olympic champion, but you don't start putting the bar up here. Yeah, you will never achieve it. You have to do it slowly and slowly progress and have goals as you go. And I think that's in my mind is how I started thinking about it. Also, Lean is about, this was our logo for Lean. Lean is a bit process, and a lot of things is fixing processes. But the big thing, I think, is culture. How do you get people to cooperate? How do you get people to accept what you do? And not the least, how do you get people to use the things you make? They have to be involved, and they have to be with it all the time. And I believe developers are clever people. Why shouldn't you start presenting business problems to them so they can think how they would solve them? One of the biggest things we had success with was actually presenting business problems to the developers, asking them, we don't know how we're going to do this. Do you have any suggestions? We don't know how to specify. We have this problem. How can we go about? And it's extreme how many good ideas and how many things we could solve by doing that. But that requires trust, and it requires people to actually talk together and be able to explain to each other. Yeah, Lean, when we did this in Storebrand, it's a 12-week process. It's a lot of things. We do diagnosis phases where we actually get facts. Yeah, look at things, measure things, see how it is, and get a commitment to facts. Then we design a future state, and then we do implementation. And the point is to do the implementations, do the changes, change things. And I've done that in quite a few Scrum meetings as well, or projects as well. Just change things. Yeah, show that you mean things. When people get up with, to suggest things, suggestions, just implement them. Don't ask for people to do it. Like 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting and somebody said, we need fruit 2 times a week, not 1. Do it. Show that things happen when people start suggesting. Then you'll get a flow of new suggestions, yeah? And people are encouraged to think. So the thing is here on culture and lean is obviously the process. Focus on the customer. What does the customer want? Because a lot of the things we make is not what the customer wants, it's what we want, or we think the customer wants. Yeah? I think that's what's important here is to go and observe. I've been in so many meetings where people have said it's this, and this. And when you go there and you ask people, it's completely different. Yeah? We have so many cases where the gut feeling and what people want to think is happening is what we get. And not, you have to go and observe. So we sat beside the poor guys in the process, clocked how much time they used on for different things and things like that. Respect and build your team, yeah. Empower people. Let people be able to decide. If it's on their level, let them decide. And that's really if they got enough information or they are close to the customer, let them do the decisions. And then a common goal. You need to establish that common goal. This is what we're going to achieve. Then people will follow. If you don't know, they don't follow. So it's a lot to do with culture. It's a lot to do with creating the team, the right atmosphere to get up the right ideas. Yeah. There are also on process, there are 4 or 5, 8 principles. I've highlighted 2 of them. Not all the process parts adds value to the process. Yeah? Take them away. It's no need using them. And the other is that we don't really work coordinated, and that we do in projects as well, yeah? These guys are very good at what they do, and then you've got 2 producers here for 1 poor guy there. So it piles up. So what we did to a lot of our development teams say that everybody is responsible for the final delivery, and if these guys are struggling, you have to go help him. Yeah? There's no job descriptions here. Everybody has to be able to do this all together. Yeah? So can you see any waste here? I talked to, yeah? You said the manager, yeah? That's actually the CEO of Storebrand that signed it. Yeah? He will get 10,000 letters he would sign a month. Believe it. He was not a happy man. So what we did was we thought about scanning his signature, doing all kind of clever technology things. Before one clever soul said, do you think it adds value to the customer that is actually signed by him? Yeah? So what do? You go and ask the customer. And what did it turn out to be? They didn't care who signed it. They didn't even care if it was signed, just as it was an official letter from Storebrand. Yeah? So, away. And this is the things you have to think about. Yeah? Again, we found a lot of technology that would solve it. It's not a problem. So to find the right tasks going into the backlog and what we are actually going to develop, having active product owners that know what we're going to do is important. Also, you have to measure your progress all the time, yeah? So without measuring and knowing what you're doing, you not really know what you're doing. So we defined quite a lot of key performance indicators. How many customers do we have? Things like that, but also how the process worked all the time. How many things do we process every week? How big is our backlog on things? So we had control over the process. And that's pretty important so we can find out how we can do things better. Agile in Storebrand. From this beginning of time, we've been a very waterfall development organization. 15 years ago, we started with DSDM. And I think within the Agile methodology space, if you found the method, we tried it. So we done extreme programming, we done feature-driven development, and it's good to experiment. What I find now is we have Scrum, but it's Scrum-ish. we have a toolbox where we use different parts from other methodologies, depending on the things we are going to solve. Yeah? So I don't believe in fanatics. So you have to be a bit pragmatic and pick things here and there, but use a framework as the way you work. So what we actually did was to have this lean thing, reforming the business, feeding into a backlog of what we call a distributed development team. That's the guys working with new technology. Yeah, and then we had a stream down to the guys working with these old systems, Kix, COBOL, things like that. And they hated, they said, actually, we can never work Agile. Again, when we looked at their development, waterfall development project, they were actually more Agile than most others in Storebrand. Yeah, they just called it waterfall. So we made some, but they need some more time because it's a bit, so we had 4-week sprints there, 2-week sprints for the other things. And this backlog was modified all the time based on the business needs and what we need now. So, we know we are going to give 10,000 offers. To whom? And how are we going to handle them? One of the big problems we found was that the salesmen hated back office and vice versa. Yeah? And in fact, 90% of the papers coming, there were errors in. There were problems. So what happened was that, and I see some of the things the salesmen sent in. It's yellow stickers, kind of napkins from restaurants. Those are the extreme cases. But it's kind of, they sell. They just want to get the orders in, and then the other guys fix it, yeah? From the back office, they didn't understand because they got a lot of errors, and they were not allowed to contact the customers. So they had to get these guys that never had time because they were running around to other customers, going back and forth, yeah? So this took a lot of time. The first thing we did was to change it so back office could actually talk to the customers and get it right. Yeah? The other things we did was that one guy sat down and did an Excel spreadsheet like this. And the things we need, basically, is very simple. It's some company information and then a list of all the employees. Yeah? Not very complicated. Made an Excel spreadsheet. You are by now going to use this to give us the information. Structure it a bit. And back office and all managers in Storebrand said, you will never get these guys to do that. Yeah. And they said, we will never do that. So how do you want to make them do it? No? Motivate. How do we motivate? You're part on the right. We said that if you use this, we guarantee you will get an answer in 1 week. If you don't do it, we'll use the normal 3 months. Yeah? Do you think they started using this? Yeah? Problem solved. No problem. Easy. And even though we could deliver it much faster with the old method, we went sure that it was lying on our desks till the 3 months had passed and they would get it. And we had a lot of sales managers asking, why isn't my case finished? It's because you haven't done this. Yeah? So that's the first, just to try and structure things. The first thing we did was to actually make a web report, a web portal, and down to a SQL or a NoSQL database. It's a first sprint just capturing the information, getting in, and saying we'll get back to you when we have got produced everything. Going there and doing the normal process at the backhand. That way we knew that we had the customer, we knew who they were, we had all the lists clear and things like that. And we also had quite a lot of business analytics on it to see how the progress was. But nothing really with a system. Even here, just by doing this, we take the quality problem from 90% problem with the quality down to, guess what? 10%. Saved a huge amount of time. The second one, we're iteration. First iteration, yeah. Second iteration now. And the third and the fourth and the fourth was really to start automating this thing. Still nothing to do with the backend system. Still nothing to do with, because they used a lot of time. But what we did was that we made a simple quote engine, just giving the numbers, giving it back through, so the customer can sit and do this themselves. Yeah? And we added public company info from all the companies in Norway. You got the public register, we added that. That meant that none of the customers needed to fill in their company information. It was already the official ones. When we launched this, who do you think the first users are? No? Obviously, our competitors. They try to figure out our price model, yeah? So they bombard us with a lot of requests. So we also made sure that you have a unique customer ID or a company ID. So we had to have real companies, and you had to have, we saw if you had an offer before and things like that. So at least to make it a bit difficult for them that they had to have a lot of companies they will have an offer for. And so we tried to do it. But things like that. The other thing we struggled with was that people here entering had a lot of errors into the system. And they actually entered into one system and then another system. And one of the systems were much more strict on quality than the other. So we just turned them around. So you did the one with the most quality checks first, and then the other one would go okay. Yeah, this is the few thing. So we gave it away for free. Then we started actually automating the process. But we didn't automate everything. We automated the simple things, yeah, first. Creating a customer, creating an offer, input the employees, things like that. But don't do any calculations, don't do anything like that, because that's, nobody trusted we could do that. We have a tradition for doing services in Storebrand. We started in 1996, and we've done a lot of services. And it's actually a good way to break up functionality and things like that, and exploiting the legacy systems in a other way. So we had experience with doing this for getting information out, but we had no experience of writing things back to it. But like I said, one of our developers said, how difficult can it be? So that, and it worked beautiful. The first time we used this was just straight in, no problems. When you design services, the biggest mistake we do is to exploit the complexity of the legislative system out to the world. Yeah? Because there's quite a lot. So what we tend to do is to make business services like invest this money in this fund. Then people understand what it is and can do it instead of doing a lot of complicated things. So we also did this so that people, the ease of communication between. So we had a lot of attention on the ease of communication and using a business language also as the internal IT in the internal IT solutions. Yeah, and that means that reuse explodes and the productivity of people of the teams because they actually understand what they're doing. And you really need to have an architecture in the bottom that takes into account that you are going to do agile development. Things are going to change all the time. If you got rapid agile deliveries, things are going to change. So you have to very carefully architect this with the flexibility that things will change. Yeah? Otherwise, if you try tweaking something here and something wrong goes there, goes something wrong there, you got a big problem. So in my experience, a lot of the things here is to be aware all the time that these are things that's going to change. You need to build in the flexibility. Hence the semi-structured database. Yeah? We can just put XML, JSON documents to it, and we can add fields, do things without thinking about it. Yeah? Also, we had a process layer that called all the services and tied into each other, so we could automate a lot of the services. So this is quite a lot of the things we did in the end. We could create the offer. So we took it, on average, this part of the system took, on average, 7 weeks, I think. Now down to 1 minute. Yeah? And much done by the customer. The cool thing was that now this wasn't a challenge that much anymore. So we needed to do some other things. So we started using this as a marketing tool as well, which companies haven't been. We had full control of who'd asked for a quote from us. So who hasn't? And we started also doing some analytics here. All the flower shops in Oslo have bought this product. You haven't. Why not? Yeah? They trust us. And we could get all this cool information out of this and do it that way. And instead of the salesmen, we now have inbound, outbound call centers, and they helped each other. So cool. The next big major problem were the actual letters and contracts. We had a letter template of about 720 templates they were making letters, the offers from. Yeah, how do you manage that? And it was, when I talked to the caseworkers, it was absolutely necessary because they had to personalize the letters to every customer and things like that. Again, into the backlog, we thought about automating all this, but how do you choose between 700 and something letter templates? So we out again and did quite a cool experiment. We asked the salesman. We gathered 4 offers. Who do you think has produced this of the back office guys? and they could identify 100% of them based on the letters we gave them. So every caseworker had their own templates, making their own letters. Yeah? Again, not a very good idea, so we changed it around. And into the backlog and started doing this. And the end was a document generating system that made standard email documents back to the customers. We actually got a thank you note from our legal department afterwards as well. And we also changed a bit about the order of things. Again, looking for waste, looking for things that's not necessary. One of our big problems was that the customer never signed the contract and returned it to us. It wasn't important to them. So we said in the contract that by paying the first payment, you accept the contract. Yeah? Got rid of a problem. So we worked further. We worked further than with, because then one of the problems is then that the customers was one of our biggest problems. Yeah, because they had to provide us with a employee list and things like that. So we started working with accounting firms like Visma and things like that to actually get computer connection to their systems, so we can actually go in and get the employees ourselves. Yeah? And for big companies like Manpower and things like that, with 100,000 employees, that's a good idea. Yeah? So we started exploiting in sprints, small steps, going further and further, improving this. And the result is, by 1st of July, we were down to 1 minute processing time for 80% of the offers and 1 minute processing time for the contracts. Cool. From 6 months. By iterations, learning all the time, having focus on the business and the business side and eliminating a lot of waste in the process. Taking away steps that's not necessary. Don't add to the customer value. Listening to people that actually knew what was going on and trying to have brainstorm thinking out of the box. And a lot of the bright ideas came from developers that thought, why can't you do this another way? 1st of July, we did 14,000 contracts, which is over our goal. And we had 50,000 offers produced during that year. The year before, we had 600 with the same people. Yeah? So quite a success. Any questions?
Do we have questions? No? Nothing interesting? All clear? Okay. Thank you for your presentation. This is a small gift for you.
Okay.
Okay.